dude, because I think we were short a person or something. But, I don't know, just got stuck there, hated it for a long time, hated it. But eventually it became comfortable and I just started liking steering, but I like all the seats, so that's it. My favorites are long distance races, but I love hammering out a sprint too, so.
Lisa Bai, from Kilohana. I am standing. Don't stand. I have been paddling since 1987 with Canoe Nui. I started there, and then eventually started Kilohana with my brother Brad. Yes, we're related. And I started off as a stroker. I was telling these girls because mostly it was because I was so compact and that's where they fit me best, and eventually I found my way back to that because again I was compact, but I probably had some attitude or something, so I did figure that I could steer a boat and use that attitude in a positive manner. So I've been paddling and steering for a long time. My favorite races too are long distance, but I also like sprints. I find a passion for a good turn. I love seeing that. I love seeing it. I like to know that they can whip around. You know, it's a 45-foot canoe, and I'm so small, and then to feel it whip around, it's exhilarating. Right? So I teach a bunch of keikis how to steer, and that's also my passion for right now. It's probably my main passion until I find myself training again for a long distance. I'm in great company here, so I'm happy and honored to be here.
Can I stand? I'm going to use this because although I'm a big person, my voice isn't very big, as my paddlers will tell you. They can never hear me. I started when I was 9. I was lucky to be in a paddling family, and I've been able to paddle in Hawaii and Northern California, Southern California, Tahiti, all over the place. And I've been lucky to get education and training from people like Billy Whitford and Tita Watahi and Abby Napoleon and things like that, people like that. And what I want to do is, because I've had this gift of this knowledge given to me, I want to disseminate that to as many people as possible. So I'm very happy to be here to share what little I know with all of you. And I'm very happy to be in company of these great ladies because you got a lot of knowledge sitting next to me.
Cool. So let's kick this off. You know, this session is primarily around steering techniques and tips, and I know all of these have a plethora of information, a wealth of information that we all can benefit from. So let's just go right into it. From a steer's perspective, how do you approach steering?
Shall we go by? We were going to not have a moderator.
Well, you know what? That's all right. I'm so glad. Okay. I want to apologize. We were going to have a moderator, but she felt maybe the male perspective might slow things down a little bit. So, which is very true. So they're going to go ahead and run their own session. And after, if you guys have questions, I can be the nice person and take them on.
Yeah, especially towards the end. So, how this came to be, oh, you're welcome, thank you. There has always been a little, steering usually in the outdoor classroom here every year at the clinic. And at the last meeting, somebody, either Brad or maybe Junior or something, said, we should have steering from the women's perspective.
Junior.
Junior said that? And sitting there in that room.
Because I was getting tired.
And we thought, and a couple of names got thrown out, and these were 3 of the, Dawn's name was also thrown out from TM, but she's out of the country right now. Uh-oh. And, oh! She is. But even from the get-go, we didn't want to say this is like steering for women or steering from women's perspective. It kind of morphed as we started talking into what kinds of things do we maybe know that the general population doesn't know, either from where we paddle or who we've been taught by. And in the end, it turned out we kind of thought we'd each talk a little bit about what our forte we think is, and maybe things that we know that is new to somebody. We'll each talk for a few minutes about, what we kind of outline for ourselves, and take questions in there, like maybe Amy will talk first, and she'll talk about a lot of open water stuff and take some questions there. I'll do some bay stuff, take some questions. Lisa some regatta stuff, take questions. But we've all been steering for so long in so many conditions that we think there will also be a lot of questions that can be kind of the moderator panel type, ask a question, see who wants to answer kind of stuff that we didn't touch on initially. So that was our plan. And so we just kind of work our way from the outer ocean into a regatta scenario, and we'll start with Amy for some open stuff, water.
Okay, so for my little piece, I'm going to talk about 3 points first, and then talk about wind and waves. Okay, so 3 points as a steersman, and actually let me back up a little bit.
Oh, right. Yeah, we did kind of want to, the audience is bigger than I expected, but we just want to do kind of by show of hands. First of all, how many people are actually the coaches of your club? A lot of those. So, show of hands for steering 1 year or less. Brand new at this. Hey, good chunk. Steering like just 2 to 3 years, semi-comfortable, good at your water. And then steering for more than that, 4 more years. So we got a good cross-section.
Okay, so now we know who we're speaking to, which is everybody. So we'll just talk about everything. I apologize to the people who know tons and tons of stuff. If some of this is redundant, I'm going to try to speak to as many people as possible here. So I have 3 points that I want to start with. The first is be safe. Never underestimate the responsibility that you have as a steersman for the safety of your crew. That is your responsibility solely, okay? Who is in your boat, where they're sitting, that whether they know what they're supposed to do in their seat, what clothes they're wearing. That's all something that you should have an opinion about. Because if you go out in the open ocean and somebody is wearing the wrong clothes and you flip, you're going to have to haul that dead body back to shore, right? And I'm being very rude and abrupt here, but that person who's hypothermic cannot help you lead the boat back over, cannot help you gather the paddles, cannot help you bring the boat back to shore. So before you leave the shore, look at what they're wearing. Look at where they're sitting. Make sure 2 and 4 know that that ama is theirs and not somebody behind them or somebody in front of them. Okay, so the safety, briefly, I wanted to touch on. I know this was spoke about earlier. You all know the 50-50-50 rule? 50-degree water, 50 minutes, 50% mortality. Okay? This is a water sport, this is a cold water sport. We need to keep that in mind. Okay. Part of being safe is knowing your conditions, and that's the second thing that I want to say. Before you leave the shore, you need to know what the conditions are, what the wind's doing, what the current's doing, what the waves are doing. That's not only for safety, that's because that's going to affect your course. It's going to affect whether you win the race or not. Knowing the conditions is really important, and not even knowing it before you leave, but when you're out there, every 5 minutes you need to be reassessing what the water is doing, because every 5 minutes it will change. And you not even only need to know what your water's doing, but what the water ahead of you is doing. Okay? Because if I'm here and I see there's a peak there and a peak there and some wind over there, I might want to do this on my course. Okay, and I want to move over here now because in 10 minutes I'm going to be in a situation where I'm going to be able to better ride the wave, or I'm going to be able to better avoid the wind. Okay, so knowing your conditions is number 2. Number 3, and I'm going to say this in Hawaiian because it makes it sound less crass. You need to have an akamai okole. What does akamai mean? Smart. What does okole mean? Behind, okay? You have to have a smart behind. Now what does that mean? You as a steersman are in the unique position to feel the boat better than anybody else in the boat. Because of usually number 6, it's a little bit flatter, you're pushed from behind, you can feel the swing of the boat, the run of the boat, and you are supposed to be thinking about that. As you're paddling, you need to know, and as you're steering, you need to know as much about the conditions as possible, and you can learn a lot from your behind, okay? So you're paddling along, and you see the swell coming from this direction, you see the wind coming from that direction, and you kind of know what the boat's going to do, and all of a sudden your boat does this. Where'd that come from, right? And you look, and you can't see a swell, but you just keep doing this. And all of a sudden you realize that there's a little tiny refraction that has come off the shore that's coming at you from the left. And that may be important because it's going to affect your course, it's going to eventually push you that way. Or it might be important because that little swell is what's going to make you win the race. Because if you just turn a tiny bit to the left, you can ride that swell, even through this swell that's coming in, that's the predominant swell. Even though the wind that's coming from this direction is pushing you, you can ride that little tiny swell all the way home, okay? We had a condition the other day where there was current coming at us, there was wind from the left, and all of a sudden, you could not even see this, but in a cyclical pattern, it was slightly easier to paddle. Because there was an almost imperceptible push coming from behind us. And our crew rode that swell. We couldn't see it, but we could feel it. And the reason they could feel it is because I told them it was there. And I told them when it happened. And I told them when they needed to lean on their paddles just a little bit more to get that little push. And we really picked up boat speed because we were paying attention to the ocean. Okay, so those are your 3 things. Be safe, know the conditions, and have an akamai. Sorry, I won't do that anymore. So the next 2 things I want to talk about is the wind and the waves. And will this go? I have room. Am I tethered? Smart idea. Okay, so Stephanie was prepared. Okay, so wind and the waves. Let's talk about waves first, because they're more fun. No, let's talk about wind first, because it's not quite as fun. Okay, so when the wind is coming at you, when the wind is coming at you, this is the wind here. The wind will always pull your nose into the wind. It'll pull the parallel. You can write that down, pull the parallel. So let's say your direction of the wind is, if the direction of your boat is like this. The wind will always try to pull you this direction, okay? And you're going into the wind. So before you even go out, you know that you're going to be mostly poking on the right and mostly paddling on the left. And when you get lazy, you're going to start poking right and paddling right, but that's lazy, don't do that, okay? Because paddling right, as you know, affects your boat, makes you go left. So you'll see in these races, you see on the internet and YouTube, the top boats, you'll see the steersman, if it's a predominant force affecting the boat, the top steersman will be switching over a lot. They won't be poking and paddling on the same side, okay? Okay, so you'll predominantly be poking right, paddling left, and you soar on the left. If this is the direction of your course. Same thing, or the opposite thing happens in this direction. You're going to have to be poking left, paddling right, because you will be pulled into the wind. Okay, that's pretty easy. The problem is that, well, let me say the second thing first. If you are parallel to the wind, the wind will affect every aspect of your boat at once. When you're like this, the wind affects what it sees the most at once, which is the back of the boat. That's why it pulls it into the wind. When you are completely parallel to the wind, it affects every aspect of your boat at once and pushes you this way. And you will know that you're sliding because you can feel yourself sliding. You can also look at the water and you can see that there's a smoothing of the water that happens as you're sliding across the water. That is not optimal. Okay? You're not in control. The wind is in control at that point. If you are sliding, you are not going to go this way. You're going to go this way. Alright? And what a lot of people don't realize is that, let's say, you want to go here. And you're aiming that direction. What happens if you aim at your goal? You're going to end up down here. And fight your way back up here. Okay, this is why it's so important to know your conditions before you go out, because it affects your line. It would behoove you to aim a little bit higher, so that when you slide into your target. Okay? Plus, if you aim a little bit higher, you may be able to fight into the wind and actually get a straight line instead of having a sliding line, because that's not as fast in the forward direction. Okay? The wind behind you will tend to push you, but it will tend to push you like this. Just like if you were, pushing a sled from behind which didn't have good steering. It kind of slides like this. It's the benefit of the wind is that it also causes a wind shock. So if it's behind you, you also probably have a wind swell behind you, and that's really fun. So let's move from wind to swells. But before we do that, I want to say one more thing, which is, let's say you want to go from this point to this point, and you have wind coming from this direction. If you do nothing, again, the course of your course will look like that. Okay? So, anticipating your course and anticipating the effect that the wind and swell will have on your course is going to be important. Do you want to fight up into the wind and then kind of go this way? Do you want to have a zigzag course? Whatever you want to do, you just have to decide ahead of the time so that you're in charge instead of the wind being in charge. Any questions about the wind? Any questions about anything that I've said so far? It's all crystal clear? Okay. All right, so waves. Waves are super fun. Okay, and waves, there's a million things to say about waves, and I won't take these ladies' time. I'll try to make this brief. So, what waves will do as they approach the shore, which you will know in advance because...
Hey, Brad.